So now to be able to display our screens, if we go to our framework data, go into our game data default, we can assign these classes now. So we can want the main menu class to be the menu multiplier, and the game display widget is our game display widget. And we're going to have it as show menu. One other thing we're going to have to do that we didn't do when we moved all the data assets to our plugin folder is in our asset manager. Come to asset manager. We need to update the scan directory to our plugins. It's currently set to this directory doesn't exist anymore, so we need to just update that to our plugin data directory so we can find the data. So now let's just see if it works. And we're not getting any menu. So let's do some fault finding. So we're going to go back to C++ and we'll just close this stuff off. And we'll come to our game mode and we'll come into where we handle the assigning the data. Put a breakpoint here because this is where it'll all kick off. So this is where it'll start assigning the data and we can follow this through to see what happens. So go back to here, press play, should hit that breakpoint straight away and we can follow it through. So it didn't get assigned here because we're not hosting a game, there's no option string to get. Here it's going to look up the default and we should have returned our default data asset. So if you haven't got the naming right there, it wouldn't have found that. So now it's going to go to the on data assigned. This is where it's going to load the asset, so we can see that we've got a valid ID here. So it's gone through, it's going to load the asset. So I'm just going to put a breakpoint down here and skip to that. So that's going to happen once that's loaded. So that's loaded. So we've got a reference to our game state. We've still got a valid ID. Yep, it's just casting to, so it's casted to our S game state. And now this function here is what's going to cast it to our data class. So that's returned a valid data class. And then it's going to pass it over to our game state. So let's go over to that. And then here we're going to set the game data. And that is where it's going to end. What's meant to happen is the game data gets set and the on rep should fire. So if I continue this, nothing's going to happen because on a server, you need to call on rep manually. So we've forgotten to call this on the set game data here. So I'm just going to put in here on rep game data, and I'm going to put around this if has authority. Don't want anyone else calling this basically, other than the server. So the reason why we need that on rep is that's what's going to fire our on-game state ready broadcast, which the game mode is waiting for that we bind to at the start. So it's waiting for that on-game ready event, so it can say that the game is ready and it can initialize the players that are already connected. So that'll reinitialize the player and restart the player. And then if you go through the restart process, it goes to possess. So if we go to our player controller and we're doing our on possess here, and that's how it gets to the show menu part of for the player. Before we go back to the editor, I just want to go to the default game data. So in here, I come across an error outside the recording that is so stupid I don't want to go through the fault finding process to find it. So when I created my plugin, if you have a look at my plugin here, I've misspelt multiplayer. I'm sure you didn't do that, so you could probably ignore this error, but I wanted to bring up the point that it has to be spelled the same as these references. So for mine, I need to take out the T and just get the spelling right, and I might do a video on renaming a plugin, because I'm going to have to rename mine anyway. And the other thing is you want to add that, if you recall in one of the other videos, I took out the _C to see what that difference that would make, and it does make a difference, it doesn't work. So I believe what the C is doing is saying, it's pointing to the CDO, so it's basically saying this is pointing to a class, not an instance. And that is it. So as long as you've got those right, we should be good to go. I'm going to restart the editor. All right, so back in the editor, we're just going to press play and see what happens. Oh, got to take the breakpoint out. And there's our menu. So let's have a look if everything looks right. Getting some weird resolution here. There we go. That's changed. That changes. That's right. This changes. This changes. We're missing a whole selected game data menu there. We can't select our game, so something's gone wrong there. So let's go back. Well, the back button works. Join. So it's doing a search as it loads, which is what we wanted, and it hasn't found anything. That's fine. If we refresh, I don't think the refresh button's either not working or it's not getting rid of that message. So we've got something to fix there. And exit works. First off, go to our host menu. See what happened to our list here. Oh, I know what happened to our list. We don't have anything to display. Let's get that back. Let's get that going so that if we go to our data, we need to make some actual game data that's set to display in the list. So I'm going to duplicate this twice, and I'm going to call this, this will be whatever, whatever game it is. I'm just going to call it Alpha, and this one will be called Bravo. I'm really exciting at making up names for stuff, as probably finding out. And I'm just going to change the data here so we know which one's which. And then we don't want it to show a menu, and we want it to show in the list. That's the main thing we need to change. I'll just quickly fill this out. All right, let's just check that quickly. There we go. And it's updating when we select a game mode, so that's awesome. It's showing the text correctly. Cool. And so just the join we need to fix now. So it's either the refresh button not working or it's just not refreshing for some reason. Let's just have a look at the log. It's saying search failed. So we've got some issue in our C++, I'd say. So let's go to C++, go to our join session widget, and we'll start at start search. Oh, that was probably because search was already in progress, I'd say. Let's just try that again from the start. Start search. So it finished the search and it was successful. But there's nothing display, so it should remove the spinner. So let's just fix that first. So on search complete. I'm just finding the usages of the set spinner. So it's false at the initialize to true. So obviously we're missing another one that sets it back to false on complete. So let's just go to our on complete, and we're just going to turn it off no matter what, whether it's successful or not. That should sort that out, and then that should be right. So I think we just need to check if the refresh button on clicked is starting a new search. So maybe we're not resetting the search in progress. Is that right? So on session search. Yeah, okay, so we need to do that in here too. Search in progress equals false. Now there's something else we'll fix while we're in here. We go to the session entry, and these two, so these are called from delegates, so I just need a U function on these. I think it was still working, but should have a U function on them. So that's a side issue there, but let's just see if that's fixed what we need. So it's relaunching the editor. Alright, back in the editor. Let's fire up again and go to join. Search is complete, no spinner. So now we should be able to do another search. There we go. That's working better. So now we want to check if we can actually find a session, right? So let's stop this and we'll go to 2 and we'll do in new window. So on the first one, I'll host a game. Show on the menu. See if we could find it anyway. And there we go, that's found it. Got some formatting issues here. I think it's mostly because the fonts are too large. Actually, that's wrong, actually. It's not showing the data right. I have to look into that. Can we join? Yeah, it seems to join alright. I'm not sure why this one showed the menu there. Let's go C++ again. Actually, it would be back in that session entry. Got a feeling I'm not calling. So maybe we're not getting to here. Let's do a breakpoint here and try the editor again. So we should be able to host a game. And there's clearly an issue because this menu shouldn't come up. But let's do our join and just check what's happening. Alright, so let's step through this. So we're getting our string for our data. It's found the data. The name looks correct. So now we've got to get the create the actual asset type. Oh, here's the issue here. So the type is game data, which it shouldn't be. It should be just game data. So if you go, oh, we're in the middle of a breakpoint, but if we'll go back into the editor in a sec, you see that it should be game data. So I'm just going to end this. This actually needs to be our game. This is why you use these defines so you don't make these mistakes. So this should be our data asset type define here. So back in the editor, we go to our project settings, asset manager, primary asset type, game data. So we could change that to game data and it would work, but it would probably break other things. So the game data is what we need there. Let's take that breakpoint out. Stop this. Take this breakpoint out. After changing that, let's rebuild. We can do that in the editor. So we just go editor and you can click this button down here. So once that's rebuilt, mine didn't rebuild because I'd already rebuilt. So let's host a game. So I've still got this menu area over here, which I think is going to be something else separate. Okay, so we've fixed our data lookup there, so that's all good. I was hoping it was the same error, it's not. So the way that this loads for the host is if we go to our game mode and go to handle data assignment, it should come back through as an option string and grab that data. So let's confirm that this is working when we host. So we go back to the editor, just restart. So this is not going to happen the first time because it's not hosting, and that's the second client. So now when we host, it should hit this and then go in, and it's skipping it. So it's definitely not working. I think I know why. If we go to our host session widget and go to create hosting request, in here, we need to put into our extra arguments what the game data is as well. So we've got it here in for the advertisement, which works for the session request, the session search, sorry. But what we want to do is pass it as an extra argument so we can find it in our game mode there. So we're just going to add a line here and add the include for our static game data. Yeah. So that'll put the name of our game data into the extra arguments, which is what is being referenced here in the option strings. Let's rebuild again and then launch. And there we go. It's found the string this time. And it's got our data asset, so this should be fine. And that's what we were expecting. So now it would go to whatever you have after the hosting screen. So you might have another lobby, or you might have, you can control a pawn or whatever. So now when we go to join, we're both in the game. So I'm going to leave it there. That'll conclude our fault finding and getting everything working. If you're having any issues getting this working, you're welcome to come to Discord and use the support channel. Feel free to @ me, it's @suits, or just use @rogue entity, and I'll help you out as best I can. We've covered quite a lot in these videos, and there's plenty of places to make an error, so if you need any help, come join us. That'll be the end to, let's call it part 1 of this framework, and we'll look at adding to it further in the future. Please don't forget to like if you found this tutorial helpful, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future tutorials. You can join me on Discord or sign up to my Patreon, where you can get access to all my tutorials early and the project files, as well as gain access to behind the scenes on my current game development. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you next time.